if he can keep this up, which we don't see any reason why he can't, it's becoming extremely exciting, the proposition that he presents at the World Cup. Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. We have another great episode with two performance reviews, both Pulisic and Malik Tillman. Absolute masterclass he put on in the Champions League. We're also going to give an overall Americans Abroad update of everything that you need to be caught up on over the past week, and Will's going to finish this off with some updated power rankings. The biggest movers, the biggest fallers from my power rankings that we gave just last week. Will, any thoughts before I get into Abroad's update?
First time ever that every single performance review is a Champions League performance review. Like, we're not just doing it in the league, we're doing it in the Champions League. I mean, obviously Tillman's performance was probably the best American performance or most impactful American performance in a Champions League game ever. Like, right? Like, he's setting all sorts of records now
for sure.
in the Champions League. And then Pepe obviously finished that game off with a goal to win it. So, yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. Like, it's even gotten to the point with these guys that, like, on my non-U.S. podcasting stuff, like, people are talking about Tillman and Pepe. So, like, that to me is kind of, if it's reaching the English niche side of soccer, like their performances, then that's super exciting.
And, like, obviously our algorithms lean U.S., but I'm seeing a lot of people, like, all it's talking about is links between Pepe and where he's going next, and then Tillman and where he's going next. So I think both of them, there's a pretty good chance both of them might be on the move next year, but we'll see about that. Yanks Abroad update. As we talked about, Tillman had 2 goals and Pepe had the game-winning goal in PSV's comeback win over Shakhtar. A huge 3 points that got them back into the qualifying places in the Champions League. At the weekend, there was a Utrecht PSV matchup where PSV won 5-2, and Tillman, Pepe, Ledesma, Paxton, and Taylor Booth all appeared, but none of them ended up scoring the 7 goals in that match.
I will say De Jong is back now, so Pepe isn't starting. He didn't start either match midweek or on the weekend, which is a little disappointing after a hat trick. But what are you going to do? It
seems insane after his current form, but it does go to show how good De Jong's been for that team when he's healthy. But yeah, the other performance review that we'll get into later, Pulisic opened the scoring for Milan in the Champions League, and then at the weekend assisted to Johnny Reinders in their 2-0 win. Tyler Adams logged another huge 90 minutes for Bournemouth in their 4-2 win over Wolves. Balogun is back on the pitch. Very exciting. He had 27 minutes midweek in their Champions League match and then a start over the weekend versus Marseille, but neither resulted in a goal. Gio Reyna also back on the pitch. 2 huge names getting back fit, who most likely will be back next time the U.S. camp gets involved. Knock on wood, they stay healthy through this period. He got a sub-appearance midweek in the Champions League, and then in their huge match against Bayern Munich, got a singular minute as a substitute, which I thought was funny. McKenzie got a clean sheet and 90 minutes at the weekend in Ligue 1. Tessman got 78 minutes midweek in their Europa League win, but then did not feature over the weekend. Something that we've been talking about a lot with Tessman is how careful they have been with him. It seems to be it feels like he has never gotten the start and then the start. Sometimes it's the start and then no appearance, and then the max it seems like he'll get is a start and then a sub appearance.
Sometimes he's not even making the bench after playing in the Europa League midweek. It's interesting bizarre. I've never really seen that. Like, he doesn't really have a massive injury history, so I don't know if it's something that their doctors have picked up on in training. Yeah, I don't. It's odd. I mean, they have a pretty large squad, and they're definitely going to have to sell players in January because of their financial situation. So I'd imagine that will change. But, I mean, I guess I'd prefer to see him playing in the Europa League than in Ligue 1.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard to complain.
Yeah. And then finally, Tim Weah, as we talked about, Vlahovic went down with an injury, and we talked about how this could be a huge opportunity for Weah. He did get the start both midweek and at the weekend, but at striker, and did not, unfortunately, register a goal involvement in either of those matches. I would say overall an average Yanks Abroad week. Some great performances mixed in, as we're about to get into. But getting Gio and Balogun back playing in both midweek and at the weekend is obviously a good sign for 2 of our biggest young stars.
And Cole Campbell made the bench in the Champions League, even with Reina being back. Obviously, the benches are a little bigger in the Champions League, but it shows you how fringe he has already become at 18 years old at Dortmund. Like, he's the extra man, and so it's like when there's an injury to someone in the front three or an attacking midfielder, it seems like he's the next guy in line. And every time he plays with the Dortmund 2 side, he's either scoring or there's something happening that Dortmund 2's performances are showing up on my timeline. So, it's exciting for Cole Campbell. And as you said, I mean, I feel like we're just getting guys back. Like even Chris Richards, which I think is almost worrying a little bit, is like he's kind of falling out of favor at Crystal Palace.
It's crazy.
Came on today. I don't know if that match ended yet. They're up 1-0 against Ipswich Town. And he came on in the 81st minute.
Brilliant match. Brilliant goal.
Yeah, they ended up winning. So he's not in the starting lineup right now, Richards, but you hope he plays his way back into it because he needs to be playing regular minutes. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I don't think Poch is going to play him if he's not.
Yeah, which is very interesting considering Maxence Lacroix is one of the worst central defenders I've ever watched, and Chris Richards was class for them the entire time. But
well, it looks like Gahey's going to get suspended anyway. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Did you see it? You saw the Gahey stuff?
I did not.
Yeah, he wrote "I Heart Jesus" on his captain's armband this weekend because it was the pride flag
gay
was
pride,
the armband. Yeah, it's like
the Ipswich guy didn't even wear it because of religious reasons.
Really. Did you see all the people were like, yeah, but he would be wearing gambling sponsorship?
In his training kit. Yeah. Anyways, we don't need to get into
no, it's not a political. No, just
all right. You want to start with Pulisic or should I?
Yeah. Let's do Pulisic. I'll share my screen. I thought this was. I'm excited to talk about this performance specifically because he actually didn't have a good match other than scoring a goal. And so to me, for him, I don't normally see those types of performances. I feel like his whole career, it's been like great performance, but maybe not getting the goal contribution. And it's very interesting to see him have a kind of match where he's not super influential. He was clearly off of his game. Like he was not at his best, yet still gets a goal, still helps the team win, still does what he needs to do, and then comes away on the weekend where he makes the Serie A team of the week with an assist in their 2-0 win. So it's like he, even on his off days, is still performing in the Champions League as one of the best players and then not worrying about it, getting into the weekend and playing great. So this is a lead up to the goal. He helps win the ball back here high up the pitch. You'll see a lot in this game. Almost everything I highlight, he is in central zones. Like he has really, really become a number 10 for this team, which is totally not how you would have seen his career going. Like he likes to drift inside, but this is a true number 10 performance in the way he picks up the ball.
Yeah, I honestly, if you had told me this, my first response would be, I think Pulisic is great, but I don't think he's technically sound enough to play a true number 10 position. So the fact that he has elevated his game this far is like something that I honestly didn't even know could be in his bag to begin with, which is just so insane. I mean, it makes sense as he's potentially a top 15 player in the entire world right now.
I mean, it's crazy to say that because, like, you say that out loud and you're like, well, we're overreacting because we're American fans and probably we're putting him a little too high. But just in form since, let's say, starting at Copa and then the Euros, like, in form right now, he's obviously not better than Phil Foden, but he has had a better last 6 months than Phil Foden. It's not close.
The list of people he's better than in the last 6 months includes Phil Foden, who won the Premier League Player of the Year, and Kylian Mbappe.
For sure. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if we're going to choose our best 20 players in the world, Pulisic doesn't make it on skill, like just skill alone. But in the last form, if we're talking about form, like he's just doing it in the Champions League and the Serie A. Like I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. Like it's become the second best league in the world. I think.
100%.
I think it has leaped La Liga. And I think it's leaped the Bundesliga. I think
those are close to 3, but yeah, I agree.
I think that there's so many more good teams that to me that makes the league better. Like yes, Bayern, Dortmund, Leverkusen probably and as
Leipzig,
good. Yeah, and Leipzig. But, like, I don't think Leipzig finishes top 3 in Serie A.
Well, Frankfurt's having, like, Ekitike is cooking in right now. But, no, I agree. I mean, you see what Atalanta did. Was that Conference League final or Europa League final last year where Adamola Lookman had...
That was Conference League final.
Yeah. Yeah, they're deep. I agree.
I mean, yeah, and then they put Lookman, 6th in the Ballon d'Or, something crazy. He was, wildly high in the Ballon d'Or rankings. So those are, whatever. Anyway, back to the Pulisic performance. So he helps wins the ball here, and, a lot of this, I only have, 3 or 4 moments picked out, but all of them really more have to do with his movement off the ball, which to me would be the biggest issue for him as a number 10, because I know how creative he is. I know he likes to receive on the half turn and run with the ball. I know all those things, but I didn't know that he was willing to move without the ball so much. And so here he helps win the ball back. This is Tammy Abraham with his back to goal. He's got 2 defenders still around him. Like, you would expect most players, like, they're not going to make this run because you think that ball is going back. He'll come back into midfield, right, into this area, sit here, and then go and turn. But he just follows the ball after winning it. And you see there's a defender down here. There's these 2 defenders. He just doesn't stop, and Tammy Abraham's eventually, like, plays the ball through because he's the only one running. And then, honestly, this finish to me was just incredible. Brilliant. Like, he... Yeah. I don't even know, like, he didn't even hit it smoothly. It wasn't like he scuffed it, but he just puts this perfectly into the far corner. The goalkeeper, like, looked pretty shocked that he was able to score from this angle, and it just shows his confidence. Like, he just kept driving with the ball on a straight line. He didn't try and, like, get inside the defender. He just knew he was going to score if he got into a good position, and he does, and he puts them up early on.
I mean, I don't know if it's annoying to our audience, but it just goes to show the confidence factor that we keep touching on every single week with some of these players. Like, that defender is right on his... I mean, that is an extremely tough finish, and goalkeeper surprised, but, like, the only person not surprised that went in is Christian Pulisic, and that's just how good a form he feels he's on right now.
And I think it's the same thing with the run he makes at the beginning. It's just like he wants to get himself in goal-scoring positions. He believes he's scoring when he touches the ball right now. And so even, like, when he receives that ball, like, he has... 2 defenders here to beat.
Yeah.
The number 4 is the guy who ends up cutting him off. No, it's not even. The guy who ends up cutting him off. And, like, he just goes straight. He doesn't try and recycle play. Like, he has just got a mind for a goal right now, even playing as a number 10, like, not playing as out-and-out attacker. And he's keeping AC Milan ticking. Like, they're not playing well.
No,
that's the other
all.
thing.
It's
Like,
crazy.
Last year he was playing well and AC Milan was playing well, so it kind of was like, okay, he's riding this team that's in great form. Like, nobody other than him and Reinders is really playing that well for AC Milan.
No, it's hilarious. I see it all the time because now I get a little AC Milan on my Twitter, like, not just American focused, and you get people, like, asking if Leao is even a good player anymore because of how inconsistent he's been in the setup, and that literally Pulisic is the only thing holding the whole thing together.
I mean, Pulisic has done more and played better for AC Milan in the last 18 months than Leao has in his career at AC Milan. No, I don't think that's crazy at all. Like,
no, that's not.
Not only would I say Pulisic has been better in the last 18 months, like, Pulisic is a better player all around. And I am a huge Leao fan, and I still think his ceiling is still way higher. I think there's, like, aesthetically, he just has something that not many people have, but the lack of effort and the inconsistency is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
With Pulisic, there's been no inconsistency for 18 months. This is a player who's every week we're talking about how good he's playing. He's scoring or assisting or man of the match, whatever it is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing I want to show is this is just a little bit about his movement off the ball. The ball comes in here to the midfield, and Pulisic is just like, for a player who's usually a winger, like, just the willingness to move into space here so that he can actually catch and receive and then be on the turn and play this next pass out here. He actually misplays this pass. So this is actually just highlighting the movement itself. He somehow does not play the ball here. He tries to, but just totally mishits it. But and which I think is important to look at too. It's like, okay, now he's understanding the number 10. Can he actually operate as a number 10? I'm not so sure about that. But he does really well to get into this space, pick up the ball, and he doesn't hold on to it too long. I think a big thing with why wingers can't always play centrally is because out on the wing, you're able to hold on to the ball for a lot longer. You're in 1v1s. You're not in 1v4s. I mean, Pulisic's surrounded by 5 players here, right? So he actually does get rid of the ball quickly, which to me is an impressive thing to be doing as a true winger. But again, he does end up misplaying the pass. And then the one other one I wanted to highlight his movement is he kind of differs his run here. So he is here to receive the ball in between these 2 players, but sees a more dangerous place to receive the ball is on this point where he'll be able to turn and run at the back line, right? Because if he receives the ball where he's standing now, there's not really a whole lot of space for him to operate in. He's going to have 2 players immediately.
Yeah.
Right. He has to go out wide, and then the play has to go from there. Whereas when he receives this ball, now this player has turned 360 degrees to try and defend him. This player up here is completely out of play. And so Pulisic's able to turn and attack the defense and hopefully play Tammy Abraham in there. He doesn't. He makes another bad pass where he just completely mishits it. Again, like, that's why I want to highlight this match. Is like, even in a match where he doesn't play well, there are a lot of interesting things that he does that I haven't seen him do prior. Like, he's not getting frustrated by poor touches or poor passes, and he's continually getting into really good areas.
No, I mean, that's probably the next step that comes with it. It's finding the areas and then knowing what to do with the ball after you get into those correct areas. So, yeah, that's an important showing that you give.
For sure. And, like, I mean, look at where he's receiving this ball. Theoretically, this should turn into a shot-creating action on the next. Yeah, like, one of the next 2 touches should turn into a goal-scoring chance. It doesn't, but nonetheless, you know, I love guys who get into good areas. So that to me is good. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight with Pulisic is just a really good timing and patience with the things we know what he does well on the wing. But this ball, it's kind of hard to tell in a picture. It is bouncing like really high. He's got the whole defense running at him. He just waits and waits and waits on it until Tammy Abraham makes a perfectly timed run. And Pulisic one times it right into Abraham's path, who just whiffs, doesn't even make contact. So he doesn't even get the chance created in his stat sheet because Abraham doesn't make contact with the ball. But a perfect ball that should have turned into a shot-creating action. And just to highlight that even when he plays as a number 10, he still finds himself getting into the spaces where he knows he can be most dangerous, which is really the right and left half space. Like, that's where he scores the goal from, and then where he should have had probably an assist here. But, you know, overall just a walk in the park for Pulisic in the Champions League against Slovan Bratislava, like taking advantage of maybe the fact that it was a little bit of an easier match. Like, the best players learn how to rest while playing every single match, which I think is kind of a lost art in the game these days. So love to see it from Pulisic. Didn't highlight the match on the weekend where he was amazing, probably better than this one. But just good to when we can talk Champions League, to me, that I think people respect it more than the Serie A.
Yeah. No, I feel like you did well to give the caveat that he is not Eden Hazard, but the way it feels like where he's picking the ball up, the freedom he's playing with, where he can pick it up out wide or centrally. Like, the more I watch, it's just becoming Eden Hazard-esque, and I don't know if that's too much, and people may get upset about that one, and they could be right about it, but he just feels like he's entering a different level, and if he can keep this up into the World Cup, if you have a top 10, top 15 player on form, obviously not on skill, like, the sky really is the limit, because then you attract so much attention that it opens it up for our other players who are also in good form enough to, it's then on them with the amount of space that they'll have. But I don't know. If he can keep this up, which we don't see any reason why he can't, it's becoming extremely exciting, the proposition that he presents at the World Cup.
And you talk about Eden Hazard, and like we've spoken about a little bit. Again, I don't think he'll ever reach those heights necessarily.
No, of course
but
not.
Hazard is a very similar career path in terms of positioning. He was an out-and-out winger.
Right.
And as he got more intelligent and experienced in the game, he became more creative and more dangerous from more central areas. And I think it's a conversation that's happening a lot now with like Bukayo Saka as well, where it's the assist numbers are so high, and when he gets into central areas, the goal numbers rise. And fans want to see him get into the more central areas because, frankly, it's easier to score if you're more central. Like, that's just the truth.
You can get more involved in general. Yeah.
Right. So it's like you kind of want to force your best players more central because they are such game changers. And so that, to me, is a sign that coaches are seeing that with Pulisic. Like, this is our game changer. We need to get him more central.
I mean, despite his poor season this year, that's the entire thing about, like, Phil Foden is at his best when he's in those half spaces centrally for City and not out wide where he was practically useless for England all summer. Like, that's just been such a consistent thing, and it's a growth that you, like, Pulisic and Saka may have more started as just, like, dynamic, pacey, dribbling, like maybe just beating them to the byline and getting across in is the best you can get out of them. But as they've matured as players, become absolutely deadly anytime they pick it up, can pick out the pass or shoot it or take on a man 1v1 in those more central areas. So
100%.
Speaking of the central areas, we'll go to Malik Tillman, who had, I mean, it's getting insane what he's doing in the Champions League and the amount of man of the match performances that he's picking up. But I will share my screen. Here we go. This is his performance against Shakhtar Donetsk. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I just want to start first by giving his he got a 9.5 on FootMob. He had 2 goals.
13 minutes? How long was he on the pitch?
I don't even remember how long he was on the pitch. But 2 goals, 7 chances created, dispossessed 0 times, 2 tackles won, 10 duels won, 7 on the ground, 3 in the air. I think that is important to note because what I'm about to show you is, especially to start, is the profile that we've been talking about that we haven't had in the U.S. a ton, and just how physically dominant he is and how he's able to not only shrug defenders off, but keep the ball under immense pressure. So here, there's a bouncing ball. It's essentially as clear of a 50-50 as you can get. And
at a weird height.
Yeah, and this is where the defender ends up, and he picks up the ball, progresses. A second person tries to take his leg out. The ball is in front of him, skips away from that defender, enters into this space, and is going to drag this player in, which allows he plays the ball out this way, flicks it around, and they're out the other way, creating a dangerous attack. But that is what is so special about him, is not only his technical ability, but the sheer size and power that he possesses running with the ball is pretty special.
I think like what's so interesting about the potential of both him and Reyna being in the squad is like they're both 10s, but they couldn't be more opposite, right? Like the way Reyna takes players out of the game is with a insane cross-field pass or a ball through the middle or some one little action that is like opens the game up. And for Tillman, it's like, okay, I'm put one guy on the floor, another guy tries to tackle me, third guy comes in, and then we're out the other way. So it's like, it's two different dynamics, and I don't think they work together, but the way that you could find the right way to use them in different kinds of matches is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I included dispossessed 0 times because, like, this is what happens when you go into 50-50s with Malik Tillman. I mean, this is a central defensive midfielder, and this is Tillman, and one's on the ground with the ball. One's on the ground and the other one is standing with the ball, and he rarely gets dispossessed. Now what we'll move on to is he won't get dispossessed, but I did find him to be a little bit like too nonchalant, and I think that comes with young players. It's hard to have the always-on mentality through 90 minutes of a match, especially for young players. That's something mature players grow into. So as we go into, he's in a ton of space. There's no press on. They're just essentially playing it out of the back. It's always going to be ball from the center back into Tillman. One of these two defenders comes in and ball goes right back out. So this is the ball going in with all that space. He plays it back. First time, it's awful. Up in the air, sends the defender all the way back, and they didn't choose to. But against a better team that isn't Shakhtar, who's up 2-0, these guys... Right. The thing we always talk about in the press, going backwards, bouncing ball, is the two main factors to start a press. So hits off this guy's chest, ball's up in the air. If they wanted to go, they could have. They didn't end up
If they're not up 2-0, they're probably pressing that much higher.
Exactly.
And you've got a dangerous situation on your hands.
So it's just lazy. It's a ball in, needs to be on the ground one time, ball back out, it's in the ground, and potentially against a better team, you're creating a negative situation. Then the second instance of this is this ball is coming. It just came off one of these players, and it is in the air. But here, he wants to play it to this player here. I'm not 100% sure who it is. But there's not
like
much.
Pepe, no?
Is it? Yeah, it might be Pepe. There's 3 Shakhtar defenders. This advanced pass would not progress. Now, I love a player who wants to one reason I love Malik is he always wants to go forward, he always wants to attack, but you got to know when and where. So he wants to play this first time into Pepe, but there's nothing really going if he gets it into Pepe. I'd imagine if it goes into Pepe, it goes right back into this midfielder that I want him to play it to anyways. So here, I would have liked him to have either played it a square ball first time or take a touch going backwards and recycle play through the center backs. Instead, he plays it first time where it should have gone in here. Yeah, it wasn't Pepe. Whoever 34 is or whatever it is. And the ball, it was supposed to go inside. Ball ends up, and it's just an easy turnover off of a ball that, despite what the picture may show, he was not under great pressure to where that needs to end up being a giveaway. So I just thought at certain times a little bit loose, a little bit lax.
I think that's been the big frustration for U.S. men's national team fans who don't watch him for club is that that nonchalantness, especially since he's not really getting starts. It's kind of like annoying. Like I think a lot of the comments that I see about Tillman from USA fans is like, Tillman's so annoying. Tillman's so lazy. Like all these, like it, and I get that. Like I think we both agree that he hasn't been great for country yet.
No, he has not yet.
And I think we see some of that when it's like you don't watch him week in and week out or twice a week or whatever it is. Those moments can get very frustrating in little brief sections.
Yeah. So valid, especially when he doesn't have 90 minutes to impose himself on the play, and you want to sub appear. You honestly can't afford that in a 20-minute cameo, whatever it may
100%.
be, which he's done for the U.S. Now we get into his work rate, which is very good. That we just touched on the fact that he can show a little bit of laziness at times, but the ball is right here on 21's foot. This is Malik. The ball is about to go back into their number 10 with a lot of space to play, so we can either whip this out all the way out, play a square ball into this player here, or this guy can make a reverse run and play him inside. Malik is here. Ball's coming in here. Malik tracks back. Again, if he does not track back here, they have a clear 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth guy, you can see a shadow right there against 3. That is a dangerous attacking play. Gets stuck in, gets 100% of the ball, and clears that dangerous attack.
They didn't call it a foul.
No. Clean tackle, great tackle.
Nice.
Wins the ball back. So he has that component to him. Again, with young players, it's the consistency, it's the always-on mentality that you need to grow into as a young player.
It's another one, though, like when I watch full matches of him, I don't leave thinking I leave thinking he's a good presser of the ball. I think he has great anticipation
100%.
skills. But I do also see the opposite. Like it is a tough one to read because I do think I don't know if it's switching off or not, but like I think there are moments when I get a little frustrated, but over the course of 90 minutes, I don't leave feeling that he hasn't pressed hard and that he doesn't know what he's doing. So it's interesting.
That's always why it's tough for young players. Like, it's either you come on and you make the difference because you're young, sprite, and you just go for it all, or you're just not ready for that moment. You come off a little nonchalant and it doesn't work out, and that's why when we are watching full 90s, it comes off a lot better. Here, he picks up the ball, about to cross it in. There's 2 clear spots. Pepe's making this front post run. You put it there.
Love that.
Or this player coming in to back post-ish area, puts in a brilliant ball. Pepe makes the run. Ball's right here. Pepe connects to it. If it's more into the bottom corner, it's a goal. The goalie makes a save. But perfect
that
placement
Pepe
of the ball.
run, I'm obsessed with that. That is incredible to me because 90% of the time you have 4 guys lined up like that. They all make the same run to the same spot. And if it's not a perfect ball, nothing happens. Like that Pepe run to me is why I think his ceiling is so high. He and this isn't about Pepe obviously, but this is why I love him. Like
no, it's a great run.
That's a goal. That's a scorer who wants to get goals. Like
it gives another option.
Right. Well, that always frustrates me so much when teams are chasing games and they just put 5 guys lined up at the back post. Like, alter your run. Put 1 guy in front post like every 3 crosses that come in.
All 3 of these players are capable of getting into that area. It's the one coming front post.
And it makes it so much harder for a goalkeeper if even you never play that front post ball. Right. The fact that a player's making that run in front of you, it alters what you see. It alters where you're standing. Like if everyone's making the back post run, you know where you need to be as a goalkeeper. I mean, and it's great that Tillman played the ball there. That may even be better than the run. But that's why I love Pepe.
Yeah. So a great run. He gets his head to it. Header's right at the goalie, but a good run, a good ball. And they have a little bit of an innate connection at this point, which I think is extremely exciting when you have 2 players playing for club and country. Here is his first goal, which is just an absolute joke. As a righty, you literally have no business scoring from this angle. Like, I couldn't even draw a line that makes it look like it goes around. Like, it looks like the line is going through the defender in the wall. It's going right around him, sneaks right into the bottom corner. I mean, as the goalie, you probably need to do a little better, but just the awareness for him to see that this could be an opportunity, and it just looks like a kind of a shit show in here, but the ball sneaks in, and just kind of an unreal goal from a player to have that level of confidence at his age to do that. Again, the confidence thing we keep touching on is kind of insane, but yeah, just an insane goal.
I mean, he just his confidence just continues to grow in the Champions League. It's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being so serious. I would say 999 out of 1,000 times this ball is just being – I mean, this is literally the perfect spot to just whip in the goalie is going to be really hard to come out and collect here. So if you whip in a tough ball, any header from just any touch is an automatic goal. It's such a good opportunity to just whip in a good ball to one of those players, and he just decides to go for it. And then his second goal.
The second goal is I literally jumped out of my seat when he scored it.
Absolute and utter joke. This is the one time I will suggest you clicking off one of our videos or just pausing the video and just, if you have not seen it for whatever reason, just look up the Tillman goal. This was a complete guess based off of my FIFA knowledge and how far away free kicks were, based off of how far it is from the 18-yard line. But I assume this is between 28 to 32 yards. Getting not like the quickest close down, but if I'm a Shakhtar defender, I'm not that hard pressed to
yeah, you're saying take one from there.
Right.
Shoot.
And then this angle shows it better. The goalie gives a brilliant fake dive to look like he's trying, but
he never had a chance.
Perspective, the ball is past the goal line at that point, and he is just commencing his dive. His second foot isn't even off the ground. It's in the top left corner. It's just a sick in the head finish, and then ultimately Pepe gets the winner late. But this, I mean, you can't even – it's hard to even understand and fully grasp the two goals that he scored in a game where they probably needed it. The Shakhtar match is kind of one that PSV needs if they want to qualify. He scores from the direct free kick, and then he scores from this position. Like, him to literally essentially save PSV's Champions League life with these two goals is an absolute joke for a player of his age. And I think if this performance can't make you understand why Will and I are so excited about him, then I'm not exactly sure what will. It was a joke, and if you have time, just go back and watch kind of the end of this match and how he dominated and won them the match.
Yeah, I mean, PSV are on 8 points, the same amount of points as Man City in the Champions League table, and Tillman has 3 goals, 3 assists, I think, in 5 matches. Is that something like that sound right? I mean, he is just, it's like last year we kind of saw him grow into being a senior player consistently at PSV in the league. Yep. Like, I think it was not a start every week, but when he played, you felt good about getting an assist or something. And now he's been their most impactful player in the Champions League. And they're one of the best teams in the Eredivisie. It's very, very exciting. And I also just did want to mention, if you're watching this on YouTube, open up another tab if you want to see the player. A lot of times we take these screenshots from USA Player Comps. Just wanted to give him a shout out for doing a lot of the gritty work here. So you can watch what we're talking about while we're talking about it. We just have to do screenshots because of copyright issues. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify, open up YouTube. Oh, you should be watching it there, first of all. And second of all, you can also just watch the highlights later with our analysis kind of layered over it. So just wanted to mention that. All right, power rankings?
Yes, sir.
So my power rankings are a little bit different. Yours kind of came off the international break a lot. So there were some players that fell off. But you had Pulisic last week, number 1. I have Pulisic number 1. I think he is going to stay number 1 for a very long time. I don't care unless Tillman is going to have another hat trick and another 2 goals in the Champions League. I think it's going to be hard to catch Pulisic. So I got Pulisic 1. I've got Tillman 2. Yes. I just think the performance in the Champions League and his continued performances in the Champions League have just been too good. Pepe, I moved down to 3. You would think he had a hat trick the week prior. He scores the winner in stoppage time in the Champions League. You wouldn't lose a spot, but he does go down a spot in the power rankings to number 3. I kept Tessman at 4 after his nice performance in the Europa League. I moved Tyler Adams up to number 5. He had a really good match for Bournemouth against Wolves. He's getting back to full fitness. He's winning tackles at a ridiculous rate. He has won the second most tackles in the Premier League without being dribbled past, of players who haven't been dribbled past. He's played 4 matches. So, like, you know what you're getting with Tyler Adams. Like, he doesn't really get spun, and he gets stuck in. So I do think he's a profile that we can't remove from the squad. The more I remember how good Tyler Adams is, to me, it's an injury thing.
What was the tackle where he ran essentially the entire field? Was it against Iran? In the last World Cup. I mean, that's exactly what you're getting with Tyler Adams, and exactly why we've said 100 times that having him at the World Cup will, regardless of how many minutes he gets, will be an important thing for the squad.
For sure. I kept Yunus Musa at number 6. I think he's playing consistently. He's playing well for AC Milan, and I credit Pochettino for a lot of this. He has gotten Musa to fall back in love
Yeah.
a little bit with the game and fall back in love with playing week in and week out. I moved Weah up to 7. I'm sorry, down from 3 to 7, but kept him in the power rankings, getting that start at striker. I think he's not suited to play as a number 9 the more you watch him there.
Yeah.
He's limited there. He doesn't he's not great in tight spaces. So it's kind of hard for him.
Similar to what we were saying about the Pulisic, and maybe you even include Saka and how they've grown and how you want them in those central areas because they've grown into such dominant players. Like Weah's performance on that left wing that we did the review on this channel, like that is exactly where you want Weah, and we saw him being at his best, and then obviously the goal he had in the second leg shows he's the player that you want him out on the wing. You don't want him
like
in those
he's
tight
not
spaces.
an inside forward. He is
Right.
a out and out winger. So
100%.
that have him at 7. I have Mark McKenzie at 8. I think we highlighted the PSG match where he was pretty good even though they lost 3-0. And then he was really good on the weekend, keeping a clean sheet for Toulouse. So I moved him up into the rankings. The more Mark McKenzie plays and the less Chris Richards plays, the more Mark McKenzie is making that spot his own as far as the next international break comes. Number 9, I have Weston McKennie, just playing consistently for Juventus in the league and obviously in the Champions League. And then at 10, Flo Balogun, back on the pitch.
There we go.
Playing, pretty much getting right back into the side the second he's healthy.
That was exciting. I was curious how they would handle that, but that was very, very exciting to me.
Especially since they're having a really good season in the league. They're having a very, very good season in the Champions League. He returns to the Emirates next week to play Arsenal in the Champions League, so I'm excited to watch that.
One.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. And that's our power ranks. I mean, it's hard. Like Paxton Aronson is in great form, and I can't get him in. He did have another good performance, but he didn't get a goal contribution, so I dropped him out of the power rankings. But he's making a run to get into the side, at least over his brother.
Definitely. Oh, certainly. Yeah. All right. Well, comment down below where Will went wrong with the power rankings. I'll be back next week with my updated power rankings off of his, and we will have another couple player performances. So hit the subscribe button if you enjoy these. Again, if you watch this and you're excited for, like Will said, Balogun versus Arsenal, make sure you comment who you want us to review next. We see all the comments, so it could be on Sunday right before we record anyway. So
yeah. Hit us on Twitter, too. Just tag us or whatever if you want us to do a certain performance. And we're happy to do bad performances, too, by the way. Like,
for sure.
That Pulisic one was actually really interesting to go back and look at because, when someone has a goal and you watch a match, you're like, oh, he was really good. And then I kind of watched it again, and I was like, he was pretty bad.
That's why box score watching is not a correct way to gain your information.
This is the hardest sport to do it in, for sure.
100%. All right. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next week.